In a world full of noise, notifications, updates, announcements, it's become almost natural to want to broadcast every move we make. I'm working on this. I'm about to launch that. Big things coming soon. And sometimes we do it not because it helps us, but because it feels good. It feeds the ego. But let me tell you something with complete honesty, give you true progress, real strength, lasting success. It all starts in silence, boo. When you work hard in silence, you're not looking for attention. You're not chasing validation. You're focused, you're grounded, and most importantly, you're building something that doesn't need to be held up by approval. It stands on its own. Think about the seed buried beneath the soil. Nobody sees its struggle. Nobody claps when it breaks open and begins to root. But silently, steadily, it prepares for greatness. That's the nature of sincere, disciplined effort. It happens away from the spotlight, but its fruits eventually become undeniable. You see, there's a quiet dignity in silent work. It comes from self-respect, from understanding that your value is not in what people see, but in what Allah sees. When we start something meaningful, whether it's a goal, a dream, a change in ourselves, we should protect it like we protect a newborn. You don't expose it to the world prematurely. You nurture it, you feed it, you give it time to grow strong. Because not everything that's real has to be revealed immediately. There's a psychological wisdom here. When you announce your goals too early, your brain interprets it as partially complete. You get a dose of satisfaction just from saying it, even though you haven't done it. This is called premature sense of completeness. And guess what? It lowers your motivation to actually follow through. By working in silence, you're denying yourself that premature applause. You're staying hungry. You're reminding yourself that until it's done, truly done, there's nothing to celebrate. And spiritually, there's something even deeper. Allah knows what you're striving for. You don't need to explain yourself to the world. He sees the late nights, the early mornings, the quiet sacrifices. He knows your intentions when no one else does. That's why the Prophet Muhammad said, whose actions are judged by intentions, not by impressions, not by how many people noticed, just by what was in the heart and what was followed through with effort. Working in silence also helps protect you from one of the greatest spiritual diseases, abraya'at, or showing off. When your efforts are public from the start, there's a risk that your sincerity becomes diluted. It's no longer just about the mission. It becomes about the attention. That shift can be so subtle, you won't even notice it happening. But Allah sees it, and it can rob you of barakah, of the blessing in your work. Silent effort keeps your intention pure. You're not doing it for claps or comments. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And then there's the reality of resistance. Not everyone will support your progress. Some people might doubt you, discourage you, or secretly hope you fail. That's just the world we live in. When you work silently, you're not giving that negativity anything to latch onto. You're removing the space for unnecessary interference. You're protecting your energy, and you're building something that, once it's ready, will be so clear, so solid, so undeniable that no one can say a word against it. Silence is not weakness. It's discipline. It's maturity. It's the ability to delay gratification, not just in results, but in recognition. When you can stay silent during the climb, the sound of your success when you reach the top will echo far louder than any words you could have spoken along the way. You know, one of the most beautiful verses in the Quran says, and that man shall have nothing but what he strives for. Shura and Najm 5 through 39. It doesn't say what he posts about or what he talked about. It says what he strives for, or your silent effort is your striving. And that striving, when done for Allah's sake, never goes unnoticed. even if the whole world is blind to it. So don't be discouraged if nobody sees what you're building. Don't let the lack of likes or recognition make you question the value of your effort. Keep showing up, keep working, keep growing in silence. And when the time is right, when Allah knows you're ready, your results speak with a voice so loud, so powerful, so clear, that silence will have been your greatest strength all along. Ab, let your silence be the soil, your effort the seed, and your results the tree that speaks. You know, when you work hard in silence, you're not just avoiding noise, you're also deciding who you're working for. And that's where things get really deep. Because let's be honest, most of the time, people don't actually need to know what you're doing. But we still feel this pull to show them. Why? Because deep down, we often want approval. We want acknowledgement. We want someone to tell us we're doing well. And while that might feel natural, it can also be very dangerous to your sincerity, your peace, and your long-term success, especially when your focus shifts from pleasing Allah to pleasing people. One of the most liberating decisions you'll ever make in your life is this. I'm doing this for Allah, not for applause, not for validation, not for shares or compliments, just for Him. When your work, your effort, your progress is connected to Allah, it's anchored. It becomes stable. It can't be shaken by people's opinions because it never depended on them in the first place. And there's wisdom in that. The moment you start doing things just to be seen by people, your emotional state becomes tied to how they respond. If they praise you, you feel good. If they ignore you, you feel invisible. If they criticize you, you feel discouraged. That's not freedom. That's slavery to opinions. And it's exhausting. You spend more time adjusting to the crowd than you do focusing on your mission. You start doubting yourself, comparing yourself, second-guessing what Allah has already placed in your heart. But when you remove the crowd from your equation and work purely for the sake of Allah, everything changes. You're no longer swayed by attention or silence. You're grounded in purpose. You're motivated by something higher than visibility. You're doing it for the one who sees everything, even when no one else does. There's a beautiful psychological truth here. Humans are wired to seek validation. It's how we feel accepted. But over time, especially in our modern world of social media and constant updates, that need for validation becomes inflated. It becomes addictive. And addiction to attention will destroy your discipline, because the moment people stop watching, you stop working. And that's a problem. You should never stop working just because nobody's clapping. In fact, the most meaningful work you'll ever do will probably be in a room where no one is watching except Allah. And this is where the philosophy of sincerity or ikhlas comes in. You see, in Islam, the intention behind your action holds more weight than the action itself. A small deed done with sincere intention can outweigh a mountain of public achievements done for show. The Prophet Muhammad once told us about a man who watered to a thirsty dog, and Allah forgave all his sins because of that small, sincere act. Think about that. No one saw it. No one praised him. But it was real. It was sincere. And Allah honored it. So, when you work in silence for the sake of Allah, you're not just avoiding the crowd. You're choosing sincerity over spectacle. And sincerity is powerful. It's clean. It's beautiful. It protects your heart from the toxic highs and lows of public opinion. It keeps your work sacred. You're not just doing a job or pursuing a goal. You're offering an act of worship. Because in Islam, intentions, even your everyday efforts into worship, if your goal is to please Allah, then every silent step you take becomes a rewardable act. That's what transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary value. And let me add something else. People are fickle. Today they love you, tomorrow they forget you, and the day after that they may turn against you. If your sense of worth is built on their reactions, your confidence will always be fragile. But when you work for Allah, your value becomes stable. People's opinions don't shake you because your worth doesn't come from them. It comes from the one who created you. And when Allah is pleased with you, even if the world rejects you, you're still winning. This doesn't mean you have to hide every good thing you do. Sometimes sharing your progress inspires others. But there's a difference between inspiring and impressing. One comes from the heart, the other comes from the ego. And Allah knows the difference. So every time you're about to share something, ask yourself, is this for them or is this for him? At the end of the day, your real strength is built in the moments nobody sees. Your real legacy is written in the hours of unseen effort, the quiet battles you fight within yourself, and the choices you make when there's no audience, just you and your Lord. So here's the true thing. Hope you don't need the crowd to notice you. You need Allah to guide you. And if He is with you, nothing else matters. Oh, let that be your compass. And let that be your calm. And let that be the reason you keep showing up, even when no one's watching. Because the silence of this world is nothing compared to the sound of His pleasure in the next. There's something many people don't talk about enough when it comes to working hard and striving for success. And that's protection. Yes, we speak about ambition. We speak about consistency. We speak about intention. But few people pause to ask, oh, am I guarding what I'm building? Am I protecting the blessings that Allah has started placing in my life? Where? Because the truth is, not everyone who sees your progress will be happy for you. Not everyone who smiles is sincere. Not everyone who asks about your journey has pure intentions. And this is where silence becomes not just wise, but necessary. When you work hard in silence, you protect yourself from the two spiritual forces that often go undetected until damage is already done. Up, jealousy, and L, the evil eye. These are not just superstitions or cultural concepts. They are very real, and they are spoken about in the Quran and Sunnah. Allah Himself told us to seek refuge from the envy of the envier when he envies. The Prophet N taught us that the evil eye is real and that many people are harmed not because of what you did, but because of what others saw in them, with envy, with resentment, with concealed bitterness. And sometimes it comes from the people you'd least expect. This is why working in silence becomes a shield. It doesn't mean you're being secretive out of fear. It means you're being wise out of awareness. You understand the spiritual consequences of overexposing your blessings. You realize that not every success needs a stage and not every move requires a microphone. Psychologically speaking, people are more likely to project their insecurities onto those who seem to be rising, especially when that rise is loud. Social comparison is a deeply rooted human behavior. When someone sees you progressing and they feel like they're stagnant, envy can start to brew inside them. And while you may not see it, that negativity can affect the spiritual environment around you. It can interfere with your peace, your motivation, and even your momentum. You might have noticed it yourself. You share something, you feel excited, and then suddenly things begin to go wrong. You lose motivation, you feel drained, the path becomes foggy. Of course, not everything can be blamed on the evil eye or jealousy, but it's wise to recognize the patterns. Exposure comes with energy, and not all energy is good energy. Spiritually, when you expose your plans and achievements too soon, you leave them vulnerable. Vulnerable to whispers, vulnerable to ill wishes, vulnerable to people whose hearts may carry silent resentment. And again, it's not about being paranoid. It's about being careful. The Prophet advised us to seek help in fulfilling your needs by keeping them secret. For every possessor of a blessing is envied. This isn't just good advice, it's divine insight into human nature. There's also a deeper layer to this. When you talk too much about what you're doing, You begin to shift your focus from the A work to the A reaction. You start wondering who's watching, who's impressed, who's talking about you. That shift pulls you out of sincerity and into performance. Suddenly, your journey becomes about presentation instead of progress. And that's dangerous, because when your journey becomes public property, you start living for the audience instead of for Allah. And here's something else to reflect on. Jealousy isn't always external. Sometimes we develop jealousy toward others when we spend too much time watching them. And likewise, people may develop jealousy toward us when we give them too much to watch. This is the reality of the nafs, the ego. It constantly compares, constantly evaluates, constantly craves what it doesn't have. So the best thing you can do for your own peace and for the peace of others is limit exposure. Let people see the fruit when it's ripe, not when it's still fragile on the branch. Remember, Allah is Al-Hafiz, the ultimate protector. But with His protection comes responsibility. We are taught to tie our camel B and place our trust in Him. That means doing our part to safeguard what we've been given. That includes our plans, our efforts, and the small wins that slowly lead to big breakthroughs. Working in silence isn't about hiding. It's about guarding. It's about protecting your space, your intention, and the barakah that Allah places in your striving. Let your growth be like the sunrise. Quiet, gradual, and unstoppable. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. But once it appears on the horizon, no one can ignore it. So protect your path, guard your vision, word with intention, not